Hello, everyone. Good to see you all again. So I just had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Philip Shepard for the first time just a few moments ago. And I don't think I'm alone in just feeling his energy. This is a beautiful soul. Spirit guided me to connect with him for this bonus, for this 7-week course that hopefully you're all enjoying. And hi, Philip.
Hey, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate the chance to have a chat with you about stuff
Awesome.
that matters to us both. Yeah.
Yeah. We were just discussing briefly about the need for what you do. And, one of the things that I learned early on is even the same material can be taught in so many different ways. And people are either going to resonate with the material or not, which is understandable. And some are going to resonate with the practitioner or the teacher or not. And that's okay too, right? So to give more perspectives on embodiment, I would just love to ask you, maybe what does embodiment mean to you and why is it so important? And maybe we can flow from there.
Well, it's a great question. So I would sort of characterize embodiment as the state in which the whole of your intelligence comes into coherence with the present. Now, intelligence we associate with the head and with rational, abstract reasoning. And, the fact is the body processes more than 1 billion times more information than we can be consciously aware of. There's this fathomless ocean of attunement within the body. So to speak of the body's intelligence, for me, is to understand the body as a resonator, essentially. And it's like a singing bowl, and what enables the body to attune to this present moment is, as I experience it, the spaciousness within the body. And what tends to happen in our culture is the body becomes congested and tight and bound, and then it can't resonate to the present, and we then can only guide ourselves. And so we sit in our heads and we try to sort out our way forward and weigh the pros and cons, and it's overwhelming. And for me, then, inner work, the work that returns us to embodiment, is the work of recognizing within the body orphaned energy that we've put on hold in some way, and learning to integrate it to, just like an orphan, that energy yearns to be seen, to be loved, to be brought home. And as we go through that process, we recover that spaciousness within the body. And intelligence, to speak of embodiment as bringing the whole of our intelligence into coherence with the present, I understand intelligence, first of all, as sensitivity, which is germane to what you're doing. I think any sensitivity is a form of intelligence. It can be sensitivity to a child's tears, to bird song, to color, to legal argument. There are countless sensitivities, and every one is a form of intelligence. But the thing about a sensitivity is it is reactive. If the retina didn't react, we wouldn't see. So then the issue is how to ground that sensitivity, and that groundedness happens through the body. So I feel my intelligence not as my ability to reason in an abstract fashion, but I recognize it as my grounded sensitivity in the world.
Beautiful. Wow. If anyone heard that and didn't say sign me up, I'd be very concerned. So wow, beautifully put. And I really appreciate a few of the words that you used. One, orphan. There's a real resonance, speaking of resonance, with that word and the connotative and denotative meanings around the word, and just bringing that awareness to the body sounds really powerful to me. And the other thing I thought was really beautiful was the body as a singing bowl. And what that brought to me was, who's playing the singing bowl, right?
It's lovely.
Is it our own minds with our own wants and desires, which I've indirectly determined aren't even our own wants and desires, but often the wants and desires of those that came before us that we've adopted and pursue and often attain and don't feel great, or don't attain and don't feel great, right? Or are we letting spirit play the singing bowl? Yeah, it's just a really beautiful image that clearly requires two or more, entities, beings, or whatever, and really kind of solidifies the idea of the togetherness and the oneness. Oops, just hit the microphone. The oneness that we're all really seeking to reconnect with. So
it's
beautiful.
It's about relationship, and so I really resist, that common idea that embodiment is about listening to the body. To me, that is not embodiment. Even the metaphor of listen to your body is tacitly communicating that you are in a room that is separate from the room in which your body resides. There's a wall separating you from it, and the best you can do is put your ear to the wall, as though you could never join the body, you could never merge with its intelligence. So
interesting.
So to go back to the singing bowl analogy, my work is more about listening to the world through the body, and there you're back to that sense.
Wow, listening to the world through the body. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome.
And then the body as a resonator comes into its fullest potential.
Right. Like an instrument. It doesn't sound good if it's just sitting there.
And it doesn't sound
guitar
good.
Does, but
yeah, it doesn't sound good if it's filled with sand either. If it hasn't that spaciousness.
Right. We
spaciousness. Spaciousness is the nature of being. It's not some nice quality that maybe we could attain someday. Everything is held in spaciousness. The densest rock you could hold in your hand is 99% empty space. So being is spacious, and to recover our spaciousness, it's not attaining something that is out of reach. It's just coming back to your deepest reality.
Right. Being is spaciousness. I would say, everyone listening, write that down. Okay.
Yeah, to me, there are four qualities that are inherent in being that in our culture we have sacrificed, and this, the more sensitive you are, the greater the toll this takes. And so being is fluid. Everything is in motion, even when, some things are more slowly in motion than others, but everything is fluid. And we are 65% water. We are fluid beings, and yet we consolidate ourselves. We lock ourselves into patterns of tension that, again, diminish our sense of being, as a lack of spaciousness within the body diminishes our sense of being. And to me, being, as we know it, is inherently grounded. All of life is held by the earth, is grounded in its gravitational field, and is oriented to that. And to me, being too is inherently centered. And, the earth has a center, the solar system has a center, the galaxy has a center, and each tree that grows points to the center of the earth. And when we lose our center, we again diminish our sense of being.
Wow. What came to me when you were saying that was, I think on a mental level, many people that are listening can at least open to the possibility, if not a deeper understanding of the idea that we're 99% space. From a physical perspective, it seems borderline ridiculous. And yet we kind of know it, but I'm just kind of wondering, through some of the practices that you've done for yourself and maybe guided through others, does that give more of an experience in a whole body way of what you're talking about, that from the mental perspective?
Yeah. So my, what I yearned for in my life, I recognized this at some point, was an experience of reality, to experience reality as directly, as fully as I could. And then that begs the question, well, then what is your experience of reality? What is that? And where that question led me was to an understanding that my experience of reality is my experience of the world passing through me. So with every breath I take into my body, I am pulling in the exhalations of forests that are becoming me. And I breathe out in exchange a gift of carbon dioxide that may someday become wood and trees. And I bite into an apple and I chew and I swallow, and its juice and its flesh become my flesh and blood. And I walk down the street and I feel my energy, and I'm feeling the energy of the apple. I'm feeling the energy of the sun transmuted through the apple. And then again, the apple passes through me to nourish the apple tree, or did until toilets were invented. Or I meet someone, and this, there I feel their energy pass through me, and I feel my reality more keenly through that relationship. And so then to understand that my experience is that, like, I'm a whirlpool in a river, basically, and the river is passing through me, and I maintain my shape, but that resonance of the singing bowl isn't the result of anything static. It is the river passing through me, and the spaciousness within the body makes room for the world to be felt passing through it. And I think one thing we do when we start to brace against the present, and that resistance offers the world things to get caught on rather than allowing it to pass through. And we're so deeply trained to believe that I live in here inside this skin, and the world is out there, and these are separate things. And it's a deeply injurious fantasy that leads us to harden ourselves against the nourishment of life.
Oh, beautifully put. Thank you. You reminded me of one quote, and then I have a follow-up question. And the quote was from Warren Zevon, singer-songwriter. And someone asked him, I think, what's the meaning of life? Real small question, right? And he said, enjoy every sandwich. And it was so simple and so lovely. And it reminded me, in what you were saying, and that is the idea that to be here is to be here well, if that's the right word, fully, means also to embrace all the so-called negatives, right? I mean, so-called negatives, right? All the fears, all the sadness, all the things that we're taught are negative. And a lot of us have a fear of those things. And my understanding is we can't really appreciate the so-called positive, the lighter side of life, without having the experience of the shadow, the dark parts within us. And just wonder if you can speak to, one, if you agree with that, but also if you can speak to any way of maybe assuring people that stepping into the shadow, although maybe uncomfortable, likely uncomfortable, and maybe should be uncomfortable, that there is a way through it, that there's a wholeness waiting on the other side that we can all experience. I wonder if you can speak to that a little bit and maybe ease some fears about doing some what I would consider deeper emotional work?
The security we build for ourselves, time becomes a prison. And we we want life to be safe. And I've noticed it isn't. I mean, we get sick, we get hurt, loved ones die, we die. Life isn't safe. And I think there's a corollary drawn from that says, okay, life isn't safe. Well, then maybe if I'm less alive, I'll be more safe. And so we contract, we diminish our lives, and the prison grows smaller. And the wholeness, I don't even think the wholeness lies on the other side. I don't think wholeness can be escaped. I think we are held in its embrace at every moment. What happens, though, is with that contraction, we are being desensitized to the wholeness, so that we can't feel it. And then we feel alone in the world. And that state of aloneness is the characteristic of depression and anxiety and suicide. And in these states, we feel alone, and aloneness is a result of the self-built prison, because the world feels my every thought. I move my arm, and the universe, the field ripples through it. It is felt. There is only companionship. And so the darker emotions, that dark journey is the agony of the soul being birthed into freedom, is the snake wriggling off its old skin to emerge anew. And it's one in which we are bound by the fantasy of aloneness. And to understand, in the darkest moments of that journey, to feel the earth beneath your feet and its companionship, to feel the present holding you, to sometimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I turn my attention to the present and dilate my awareness and let it rest on the present until I can feel it. And then I say to the present, what are you going to do about this? And not only does it take me out of my aloneness, but there's always a response from spirit, as you say, from this living present. So the wholeness is always there. The aloneness is what we have built ourselves into. And at a certain point, whether it's out of sheer desperation or whether it's out of a sense that you can do this, to dismantle that prison, to take down the walls that seem to keep us safe, but are actually binding us in, is to bring daylight into your life.
Yeah, beautifully put. And thank you for the reminder that to check my words as wholeness, I also believe is something within that we become more aware of rather than something to seek and attain. There's a very different energy in those two possibilities to me. So thank you for that reminder.
The funny thing about me is we strive to attain, compassion or truth or courage or whatever it might be. We've got these ideals, and each one of them carries this risk. you go into a situation, I should be compassionate here. And the brain in the head knows what compassion looks like. Wholeness is different because I can achieve compassion, but I can't achieve wholeness, as you say.
Right.
It's there.
Right.
So then it is something to which I surrender. And I feel that in my body. I feel that letting down, that letting go, that coming back to the earth through the body. It's such a physical sensation. And then through that surrender, as I drop into my wholeness, how could I be other than compassionate? How could I say something I knew not to be true? All those other virtues that we can achieve are a natural consequence of that surrender.
Beautifully put. Thank you. I've often found there's a really different energy between surrender and give up. Surrender to me is a healthy surrender to spirit. Let yourself be that singing bowl and be played. Whereas giving up is, I can't do this. I'm not going to even try. I'm not going to, there's just a different energy to the two of those. I really appreciate the reminder of the surrender, because the mind does like to get in the way and and remind me not to surrender. But fortunately, I'm getting better and better at it every day, and it's led me in nothing but beautiful ways. So we're running a little low on time. Just wanted to get an opportunity. First, of course, just say thank you for sharing your time with us and your pretty beautiful spirit, your energy, your heart. I think we can all feel that. So again, thank you so much for that. And maybe if you feel comfortable, if you want to just share, if there's any way people can reach you, you have a website, or I think you have a monthly membership. Maybe if you want to just speak to that real quick.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Dave. My website is embodiedpresent.com. And there's lots of free stuff there as well. And then the membership, what in my life, what has facilitated the journey back to my body has been constant reminders. Like I'll find some gap in my sensitivity and I'll stay with it until I've healed it, I've recovered it. And the membership serves that function. It's, once a week, there's one exercise that you live with for a week. And then there are reminders and journaling prompts that come with it to support you. And it's just step by step, so that you're living with this, conscious awareness that is facilitating the recalibration, the benchmarks get moved, and what has felt normal has now adjusted, and that each little adjustment is like a new groundedness, a new centeredness, a new fluidity, a new spaciousness that takes us more and more deeply into the truth of our being.
Wow, fluidity and spaciousness. Love it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, your energy, and to Shift Network for bringing us together and bringing your light out to the world.
Yeah, thank you. It's been such a pleasure, Dave.
Awesome. Take care.